The
client.
only time a GC, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, the only time a GC is ever pushing you like that is when they made a mistake probably
Yep.
and told a client a bad date because they
Yep.
were pressured by a client. So now they have to have the trickle effect and they got to pressure you.
Welcome to the Top Contractor Podcast, the show that highlights the remarkable individuals who are shaping the construction industry and pushing its boundaries with engaging interviews, expert discussions, and real-world stories of success. I'm your host, Bill Ryman, your broker builder, here with my co-host.
Nate Swink. What is up, Bill?
What's up, Nate? 3 off there, man. Sorry, didn't give you the heads up that we're starting, but hey,
Yeah,
we're rolling, man.
I was actually reading something pretty interesting.
What you
It
got?
didn't say where, but at some point in the U.S., they have actually added a lane on the freeway that as EV vehicles drive, they can charge while they're driving because the lane has certain whatever they put inside the road. It's pretty trippy.
I'm guessing California.
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up after because that's pretty gnarly technology there. But
Yeah.
anyway, I was reading that, and then you started, and I was like, "Oh wait."
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely interesting. Well, we are back. Another week, another episode. Appreciate each and every one of you guys listening, watching on YouTube, and supporting the channel as well. Please take the time, like, share, comment, subscribe goes a long way. Share it with your friends and family. A lot of you guys have been doing that. Obviously we're popping up organically. Nate and I were just talking about it before the show started. I have a friend of mine who just was searching something in construction, and guess who popped up? These two guys. So we appreciate you guys. Keep watching, keep sharing, keep commenting, and we'll answer any questions you have. So before we get started, though, we're going to start doing something a little bit different. Well, let's talk about this first, Nate. We got a big week coming up next weekend. The Top Contractor School retreat here in my hometown is right around the corner.
Yep. Yeah, man. Looking forward to it. That'll be happening the day that this drops on the 12th.
Yeah.
Did I get
Yeah,
my
it's
days right? Yeah,
on the 12th.
the
Yeah, I
12th.
think so. So that episode, we will be doing a live episode, the first ever Top Contractor School podcast live on stage. And we are before the main speaker, Ed Milet. What do you think about that, Nate?
Oh, Eddie Spaghetti. He's a beast.
Yeah, I think we're gonna light that stage up. I think we're gonna be so good that Ed might be hesitant to come out after us,
Well, I
man.
think if they haven't paid him yet, they'll just cancel him and give us the money. Is what I'm thinking.
That's true. That's
They'll
probably
just say
what's gonna happen, and he'll be
they'll
in the
just
crowd.
Ed. I'm sorry, you. Bill and
These
Nate
guys,
rocked it. Yeah, we didn't have any prepayment plans, so they're taking your money.
we don't need you up there. They did
But
such a
Ed
good
does drive
job.
a Tesla now, so at least he won't have any fuel cost.
Ah,
There you
there
go.
you go.
No out of pocket cost on the way here if he leaves empty handed.
And he lives in Florida now too, so it's a lot easier flight
Yeah.
too. So
Now, all joking aside, man, he's very very high level individual. I've seen him speak once before. This guy is one of the greats, definitely a aspirational person in the personal development space and business space. You know, owe a lot of our success to emulating things that Ed does for sure. So it's
yeah,
an honor to have him.
I can second that, man. I've seen him speak multiple times, met him a couple times in person. Great guy. Looking forward to seeing him again. And very powerful, impactful speaker. And we're honored to speak before him too. That's going to be kind of crazy. But looking forward to Top Contractor School retreat. If you guys don't have tickets, you might have missed out by now. If you do have tickets, we look forward to seeing you guys there. But Nate and I are changing it up for the podcast. We're going to start focusing on some main topics rather than jumping all over the place. We decided, why not just do a topic for the month? and cover that topic and kind of stick to it. And so we'll still do the construction news. We'll pop those in here and there. And then also we'll be doing some interviews, but maybe interviews will be focused on these topics with some top contractors, no bozos, as you guys know. So this week, getting started with effective communication in construction, one of my favorites. I bring up communication constantly on this show, how important it is, probably the most important thing in your business because it literally runs everything. So, but before we get started on this month's topic, Nate, what is this show all about?
Yes, sir. Top Contractor podcast. We have 3 different styles of episodes. One is a deep dive into a specific topic, and number 2 is an expert interview. No bozos, no shows, only the greats. And number 3 is wait, which one did I? Oh, construction news is number 3. Sorry, I'm waiting for this to kick in.
Another sponsor by First Form. First Form energy drink. Get you some of that. What flavor you got there?
Citrus Blast. So
Ooh,
I
that's
don't
a good
drink a
one.
whole one. I drank half. So I drank like half of it yesterday and went to the gym late at night. And then now in the morning, I'll get the other half.
Get another half down. There you go.
You know,
Screaming Freedom is the new one. Is one of my favorites. So highly recommend that for your next purchase.
yes, sir. You better have some up on stage. But
I'll definitely
so
have one up there.
so diving into this before we dive into, if you guys have questions, comments, anything like that, please add it in so that on the last episode of the month for this topic, me and Bill, if there's enough questions, we could spend that whole episode answering questions on the topic or half of it, however we need to accommodate you guys, the listeners, so that you guys can maximize your learning here and get some real value. So diving into clear communication strategies, right? I can guarantee you construction is the hardest industry when it comes to communication, just because of so many different areas that we need to communicate, right? We got clients we're communicating with, trades, employees, design teams, inspectors, all over the place, right? On some jobs, there could be outside investors on the project as well. So it can be a lot. And then with your people internally, right? You're going to have sales. They got to communicate back to operations when you sell a new job. Operations has to communicate with all these other people. So there's just an insane amount of coordination with construction. And that's really what we're going to dive in. Specific things that we do. We're not going to give you like, some lame crap that's easy to find out. These are specific things that we do, stuff that I've learned to do that saved me thousands of dollars, from a big commercial GC saying, oh, you didn't say this or say that, and then trying to back charge you. So we're going to cover all that too. So, Bill, what you got?
Yeah, it's communication, like you just said. I mean, it's in all avenues of your business. It's literally with your employees, your clients, your subcontractors, your inspectors, like Nate just said too. So we're gonna hit on probably each and every one of those individually. Kind of give strategies on how we're doing it. Obviously, we're always learning. We're always trying to come up with different concepts to do it better. I'm big on communication and listening to other successful business owners and how they're doing it in certain ways too, because the more communication you can have, the better. But let's kind of start. Let's start with the employees, Nate. Let's start there, and then we'll kind of jump to the client. Then, I can talk subcontractor, you can talk GC, and we'll end it there. But on the employee side of things, it's huge. You're running a team. I know you got a lot of employees. You got more than I do, but even with less employees like I do, I have to have the right channels of communication because things can get lost. Things can fall apart really easily too, or the employee themselves can, basically have a breakdown or have too much stress on them because they don't have the right systems in place that were supposed to be communicated to them. So Nate, talk about what you're doing with your employees as far as communication, meetings, different types of technology you're using, and just to keep
Yeah.
everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and we'll keep it real, man. I'll let you know too the areas where we're falling short that I know, like that we're in progress of figuring out issues on. So if we start with communicating on the operations side, right, and at the like management level of operations as well. So we get end of day reports from every single person in operations and sales, just going over, hey, what did you do today? What are you doing tomorrow? And what do you need help with? And then cover all those. And then actually everybody in that department, they all get the email from each other. Everybody gets it. It's actually it's not an email, it's an update through Basecamp, so it automatically gets sent to everybody. um, and that kind of clearly communicates, hey, I'm working on this, this is complete, this isn't complete. We also have, every task that they do, say they get off a phone call, someone's like, hey, I need a change order, we want to do a design change, before they even, we don't write it down, we put it right into our task manager in Basecamp so that we can keep track of that, right? And then we also have depth of contact. Now that we have so many people in the office, that's what we've been building now, where you have like a senior PM on the email, the PM, and an assistant PM all on the email, right? So depth of contact. So if one guy misses something, we're always making sure that stuff gets covered. Also in the field, before the guys leave the job site, we get photos. Those get uploaded in Basecamp at the end of every day. Also, our shop foreman, if he gets a steel delivery, photos get updated. Whatever he's fabricated for that day, photos get updated, right? So we're also implementing new technology where it will let us know live. Let's say they fabricate a beam, a steel beam. As soon as they're done fabricating it, we'll know within a second. And this thing actually times every beam that they fabricate. It's called Tekla EPM, and it was a little expensive to set up. We had to get iPads all over the shop, more iPads in the office, everything, but it's next level stuff. Now, the area where we're falling short with our team and employees is um, having more centralized calendars and production calendars. So I think the biggest issue in construction as far as communication is the scheduling. And if you ask most employees of probably your subcontractors, even, or of anybody in construction, they'll say, and by employees, not the office, but the guys doing the work, the women doing the work, I guarantee you they will say the biggest thing that annoys me is communication. My boss sometimes doesn't let me know till 8 o'clock at night that I'm going to a different job the next day. And guilty as charged, right? So that's what we're trying to figure out right now is a better schedule. And then also how to keep that schedule updated, who should be in the schedule meeting. Sounds like something real simple that we should have figured out by now, but it's surprisingly difficult to
Mm-hmm.
get the right software that tracks the schedule properly. And then it's also very difficult to get all the people who need to be in the meeting, because sometimes they're out at job sites, sometimes they're here, they're there, shit comes up. So really trying to be disciplined with that. That is our weak point right now that we're working on. But the goal, again, to reiterate, the goal is so that the employees can have access to your schedule, not your personal schedule, but what they're doing, the jobs that are going on company wide, like from their phone, right? So the employees have more information. Then that can like empower them to do more as well and be more prepared, you know? And it's construction, dude. So random crap's gonna come up. Sometimes you're
Mm-hmm.
still gonna have to let them know late, like, oh, sorry, something came up, go to this job. But as much as you can avoid that, will increase productivity, will increase the guys, mental state of mind, and make them feel more confident working there, because so many contractors do that. They just let them know 10 o'clock at night. Or I know some guys, they let them know the morning of. It's like, dude, I couldn't operate like that. I mean, 80% of the time, our guys know what they're doing the whole week.
Yeah.
20% of the time, the PM texts them like at 5 p.m. like, "Hey, this job didn't get done. We got to go here or there or whatever." So
Yeah, a lot of the stuff you're doing is similar to what we're doing too. I mean, the scheduling is never perfect, man, and it's hard coming from the general contractors end, having that exact schedule. We try and schedule ahead of hand as much as possible, just because that makes it easier. Because I know there's a lot of. I talk to my subcontractors. One of them, for example, the guy that does our grading, he's like, every time I'm talking to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I can't get out there till," and I'm like, that's why I'm giving you the heads up, man. It's okay, like because he's so used to contractors just calling him, being like, "Hey, I need you there tomorrow." Hey, because they're not prepping ahead. So with
yes,
us, with the
totally.
schedule, yeah, they don't prep
And
far. Go ahead.
and the reason why that guy is frantic on the phone, and you'll get this with so many contractors, why he's so frantic on the phone of is because he doesn't have a solid schedule. Because having a solid production schedule of every single job and what's going on with every single job that you have going on, it gives you so much confidence, gives your
Mm-hmm.
team confidence. And that's something that we've, really dug into the last 3 months. Because some of our jobs, it'll take us a whole day, like 6, 8 hours sitting in the conference room to build out the schedule for the job.
Yeah,
Because
and that,
some of
but
these
that
jobs are
goes.
like,
Yeah,
go ahead.
that goes to your proper communication, what you just said too, because you're communicating, okay, hey, I can't be there until this date. So
Yeah.
this guy, I think the problem is with him is I think he commits, overcommits, because you get contractors that are GCs that are calling him and saying, hey, I need you there tomorrow. I got to get this lot scraped, or I got to
Yeah,
get
he's
this.
he's getting bullied. He's getting bullied
Exactly.
into doing things, and the only reason why he's getting bullied is because he thinks he has to say yes, or he's going to lose the client, which that's BS. They'll wait.
Yeah.
Also, if he was more organized, he should be calling them, following up. So that's a thing that's part of my job and the PM's job and the salesperson's job is following up on outstanding bids, saying, "Hey, when do you think this job's going to go?" Following up on, and then we do this all weekly, bi-weekly at the very latest. On all of our current ongoing projects. Hey, any update? I know we talked a couple weeks ago, but I'm just checking in. I want to be proactive here so that you're not the only one having to think about this.
Man, that would
You
be
know,
nice. That would be nice if I got
yeah,
that.
that's what we do.
Because none of my a lot of our subcon, I mean, some of them do that, but yeah, like this and I always, like I said, we try and give them as much time up front to give them the heads up, like, hey, I'm getting this thing staked out for pilings on this date, I'm going to need it cleared on this date. And this was like a week and a half ago. I called the guy, he's like, well, I can't get there till next week. I'm like, exactly, that's why I'm calling you and telling you we're getting it staked on this date. So as long as it's before that timeline, we're good. He goes, oh, okay. I'm like, man, I even said this to him on the phone. I'm like, you must get a lot of builders that just call you out of the blue and just say, hey, I need you over here. And he's like, oh, all the time, man, all the time. You guys are one of the more organized builders I work with, but these other guys, I ain't gonna lie to you, it's a he goes, it's a shit show. So it's him, like you said, accepting that, but also, he should be able to say no too. So you as a contractor, if you got a builder or somebody calling you, it's like Nate just said, communicate to them and say, no, I can't be there till this date. More than likely, if they like your work, they're not going to go find somebody. They just have to go back to the client and be like, listen, which they don't want to do. That's why they're trying to force you to get ahead, do it right away. They don't want to
Yeah,
do it with the
the
client.
only time a GC, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, the only time a GC is ever pushing you like that is when they made a mistake probably and
Yep.
told a client a bad date because they were
Yep.
pressured
Yep.
by a client. So now they have to have the trickle effect and they got to pressure you. Um, you know, so
Yep, 100%, 100%. Usually that's 100% the case because they're afraid of the outcome of what the client's going to say. They're afraid of dealing with the client and being like, "Hey, he can't get there till next week," and then they're afraid of the backlash. Most of the time, if you're just upfront, this goes into communication with clients. If you're just upfront with them, be like, "Hey, called the guy. he can't get there till next week. We can get it done on this date. Most of the time, they're going to be like, okay, if they, if they have an issue with it, it is what it is in this business. It kind of you're not gonna you can't there's nothing you can do. Your hands are tied. They're gonna the client more than likely is gonna appreciate you being upfront and honest than stringing them along, giving them a bad date to start, and so on and so on. So we'll get into client communication here in a little bit. As far as the team side of things, continuing on that, we do weekly team meetings. I know there's a lot of contractors out there that do that. It's a team discussion about what we got going on, kind of the outlook of the company. We do a round table where everybody can kind of speak their mind, what's going on, what they need, stuff like that. It's very open, transparent, kind of. We have a set schedule with it, and then we get done at a certain schedule too, so we keep it timed. But I do individual meetings too. I check on everybody individually because a lot of the stuff in meetings and communication wise sometimes shouldn't be talked about in front of the whole team.
Hmm.
So I like to talk to people individually because they tend to open up a little bit more when you approach them separately too. We do job site meetings too. So if we have a deadline on something, we usually meet on site, have a discussion, make a list, put it into our software so that list is there. It's like a check off list. So each task as they go gets checked off, and we know what's going on. As for ownership and leadership, we can kind of see the stages they're in. If we need to go back and kind of discuss things again, we will the following week. So usually we do that with our closings just to keep open communication on deadlines and getting things done too. Nate, you brought up iPads for every employee. That's what we do. They're all connected to our software, all connected to our Gmail. They all have their own separate Gmails, so they're all on the schedule as well. They get alerts through that. They get alerts through their phones as well. So it's just keeping everybody tied together. We do separate messenger groups too, maybe for the guys out in the field, the people internal in the office, and then the whole team as well. So just open lines of communication there with the team. And then I said software. We're big on the software that we use. We use something called Construct. It's mostly for home builders, custom home builders, stuff like that. So Co-Construct, really good software. There's a message platform on that. We can all communicate on it. All the information's on there as well too, so everybody can go on their iPads and see what's going on per job logs, stuff like that. So very open communication in that way with our team. But as the main thing is just keeping everybody connected as a team so we all know what's going on. But it's open communication too. Like I said, the most important thing as a leader of your team and everything is you need to go around and check on them. I do it weekly, if not twice a week, being like, okay, what do you need? Sometimes it takes sometimes it takes having an end of the year event with a little bit of alcohol to let some of these employees open up and tell you what they need too. I have an employee, she had a couple glasses of wine at the end of the year event, and she opened up and said she wanted a few things and needed help with some other stuff. So I just joke with her. I say, hey, we got wine in the office, so if you want to open up, here's some wine too, to let me know what you need as well. But stuff like that, just because it's important. I mean, she wanted another computer monitor, as simple as that, and we got it to her the next day. I was like, just tell me what you want. If you need help in your position, so and you start getting overwhelmed, you need to open up, because a lot of employees won't do that too. So the truth serum kind of set her free on that one. But as far as what do you got as far as client communication, Nate? Obviously, you're dealing with more of the general contractor side of things. I deal with the subcontractors. I deal with the clients. I can talk about both subcontractor client, but you and I will relate in that aspect with the subcontractors. I'm curious to see how you deal with your general contractors.
Yeah, so how we deal with the general contractors, man. Let's see. So anytime we do a meeting on site, or even anytime we're on site and there's a project manager from the GC on site, whatever we discuss, we're taking notes on. And then before we leave the job site, the PM sends an email, right, with a depth of contact too of the GC's company, senior PM, assistant PM, PM. Same with our company, same depth of contact, and says, like, here's what we discussed. That way, that gets the subcontractor out of a lot of, oh, you said you were going to pick that scope up, or oh, you said this or this or that. It's like a real clear recap of what we talked about. Okay. And then also, and this one is, we're still implementing, right? The guys are still getting in the habit of doing this. We do a as per our phone call, or as per our phone conversation emails as well, right? And all of this is just CYA, cover your ass, because builders, I don't know if Bill's like this, probably not, because he's a pretty good guy, but a lot of builders, and to their point, they have a lot of things going on. So the more of these things you can do, like, hey, as per this conversation, to like have formal documentation of discussions,
Mm-hmm.
it protects you and it protects them from any miscommunication or missed expectation, right? So let's say I get on a phone call with Bill and we're talking this, that, whatever. I'll send him an email right after our phone call. Hey, man, great talking to you. Here's some notes from our phone call so we're on the same page. Bullet point this, 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 like, RK Ryman to have free and clear access for my crane. The driveway has to be cleaned off before I show up on site, and we need this and this emailed to us by this date. Your permit for the street closure, so that on the 20th, if we don't get that by the 17th, then your project's delayed because we're installing on the 20th, right? If you're just recapping everything so that in the event that there's an issue, you can just forward them the email and say, hey, I'm sorry, Bill, we did discuss this and you guys dropped the ball, and that's why our schedule is now getting delayed, or vice versa, whatever it is. So
Yeah, no, man, I everything you said, it's all about detail and your communication too. I mean, you as a subcontractor, see a lot of the stuff you just said, a lot of my subs do not do, and it'd be awesome if they did it, because the more detail, the more discussion you can have prior to a job beginning, it just makes everything flow a lot smoother too. And I mean, we try and do it more on our end for obviously our clients, is get as much detail out as possible so they know what's going on, what the expectation is, and so on too, where it's just not them guessing and just putting it all into our hands and just trusting us. It's not that they don't trust us, we already built that trust, but it's just giving them more information so that they can they trust us even more too. We detail out a lot of stuff that we send to them. They see we're very transparent as a company too, as far as the client, so they see a lot of the bids are discussed prior to approvals. So if they approve, the client has to approve everything with us before we sign off on it with the subcontractor. When we do selections on a house too, sometimes there are multiple selections that have to go back and forth. We don't just send it through after the first one and say, all right, let's keep the job moving. Has to be approved by the client as well. So everything is very detailed with us from start to finish. I mean, planning stages to the very end after the build, it's all very detailed communication and expectations that are set from the very beginning. I describe how things are going to go. I don't sugarcoat it. I say, this build can go up to X amount of time. Usually I like to shoot longer than I do shorter periods. As far as pricing, usually I shoot higher on the pricing just so if we do go below, I'd rather go below on a selection rather than higher on a selection as well, just because people get pissed off if they go over budget. So try and keep things, and I'm always honest with people on that aspect of it too. When I'm pricing, like for appliances, for example, I say, hey, I'm shooting way high end. I mean, if you go in and you select all high end, we should be good. But if you select some stuff that's a little bit lower, that's not all sub zero and so on, you're going to save some money. So they kind of like that element to it, because I've seen a lot of builders in their pricing, they go super cheap. It's like 15 grand for appliances or something like that, and a big house, and it's like, what's that going to get you?
It's gonna
You
get me
know?
the fridge and the
Yeah,
stovetop.
yeah. And I've seen it, man, and a lot of them do it too, but a lot of people fall for it. A lot. I just got done dealing with some people. They were quoting other builders, and they were using everybody's prices against each other. But overall, they settled with the least expensive price. But they believe these builders when they're like, "Oh yeah, you can get this for that. I can do it for that. I can do it way cheaper than anybody else too." I just had a guy call me that I was talking to, and he's like, "Hey, I meant to call you, but so this builder, he's building next door to me, and he said he can build my house for 20% less than any other builder around, because he's building the house next door." He goes, "Do you think that's right?" And I was like, "Well, maybe on some trucking costs for like the crane for pilings and stuff like that. Yeah, you might save some money, but concrete's concrete, windows are windows. Uh, you know, roofing materials. It's not going to cut the cost." So I was like, you can do what you want, man, but I was like, I know how he's going to do it. A lot of it is he's lowering his percentage as a builder, of what he's going to make, and also on top of it, I think he's just blowing smoke to get the job. But he ended up going with them because he wanted to be cheaper, and it's not the right fit for us anyway. But still, it's just back in the communication. I mean, we're big on just being very transparent up front from the very beginning to from planning. It's a lot of detail in the planning stages of things with us. A lot of back and forth with the client, and sometimes decorators are involved. We bring them in, and from there, it's a lot of communication on the pricing aspect through the build. And on the build side of things, when we're communicating, it's all open book. We have the software. We do job logging, where we'll log at each and every week on that specific job of who's coming, who's there at that time. And then they can see the schedule as we go as well. So we showcase the exact schedule. Whenever something starts, we'll start it. We give an estimated amount of days that it's going to take so the customer can see that. Once it's done, we check it off, and it goes to the next task on the schedule. So they have a detailed schedule on an app on their phone that they can follow, along with an open line of communication to each and every employee in our office as well. So if they need anything through that app, they can message us and be like, "Hey, I saw on the pic," because we take weekly pictures of their house too. If they see something on a picture, they can draw on it and say, "Hey, what is this? Why is this like this?" Because majority of the clients we build for aren't here. They live up north, and they're back and forth quite a bit throughout the year. So we have to keep them involved any way we can, so they're not constantly calling me asking what's going on with my house. And that's how it used to be with us too. I'd be the guy where everybody would call and be like, "Hey, what's going on with my house? I haven't heard anything for a little." Now, I don't that doesn't happen because we have that open line of communication during the build. I mean, there's so many things we do, man. I can keep going, but I'll let you go a little bit here. I'm yapping.
Yeah, I would just say like timelines as well, right? We were talking in the beginning about task management and different things of that nature. Always have a deadline or a due date to every task you're doing for your team,
Yep.
as well as schedules, right? Don't just you leave stuff open ended. That's a real great way to lose money and stay small. If you want to scale, you have to have timelines that you can track and deliverables and things that you can measure, right? And you can't measure something unless it has a due date or a deadline. The other thing is like a timeline for communication to clients, whether it's a phone call or an email. What's your company standard? and is it communicated to your team? Ours is like for estimates, within 24 hours of you sending us an email for an estimate, we're going to email you back whether we're bidding or not, right? Because we got to look at the plans and see if it's in our wheelhouse. And then we'll establish whatever the due date is that the GC needs it by, and go from there. If it's operation stuff, like 30 minutes, an hour tops. Like if you're not communicating back to a client and they called or emailed us within 30 minutes to an hour, unless it's something that takes a lot longer to prepare an answer, then that's a problem, right? Like that's our standard. We want to communicate very fast when it's simple things. Again, if it's something more in depth where we got to sit down for hours and formulate a solid response or figure out an issue, then that's going to take longer. But we'll still hit them back real fast and say, hey, give me a few hours, I'll get right back to you. Same thing when most clients call me. If I don't answer the phone, I'll hit the little reply and says like, hey, I'm on the other line, I'll call you back, give me 30 minutes. So all it is just extra communication, but that's what people want. That's why people will pay a premium.
Yeah, and another thing too is don't be afraid to meet them on site. That was another thing I was thinking of too, because when you can have people come on site, like especially with us, and they can see reality. I think some contractors don't like to have a lot of on-site meetings. They kind of keep it, where it's here, maybe here and there. But with us, the detail and everything that goes in the houses that we do, if people are in town, we like to meet with them. We like to walk through with them. I always tell every client that we have that, like, if you're in town and you want to set up a meeting, let's do it. Let's meet in person. That way we can have a discussion. We have a guy now, very detailed. He's an engineer. It's taking a while to get this house built because he's very analytical. He's very, like, keeps assessing every little single thing. So the house is just dragging out, and certain things we couldn't get approvals. Finally, I just said, hey, let's have meetings. Every time you come in town, we're going to meet on site. We're going to go over everything, and we're going to get stuff signed off. And that right there has made things way different than what it was, because before us as the contractor were like, this guy, I don't, he must have all the time in the world, he doesn't care, he's just, this is dragging out. But on his end too, he's like, these guys aren't they're not talking to me, they don't care, that, so you've got both sides of this thing where you're kind of going against each other. So then when we came together, we had that open discussion of, hey, sorry about this. We should have communicated on our end more. This is going to be the new way going forward, where this guy is just the type of guy we have to meet in person on a constant basis just to make sure everything is to what he wants it to be. And there's not every client's like that, but that's just how this guy is. So it's determining the client too. And another thing I was going to go into too is just honest communication. Be honest as much as possible, because I've said this before too. I think a lot of contractors struggle with outcomes. They always think of what's going to come, what's going to happen, so they struggle communicating to people. They're afraid to, because of the outcome that they're thinking in their head that's going to be the future outcome. That usually doesn't happen if you're just honest and upfront. If you got a delay, you can't make it, you can't do certain things in certain time frames, just say it, communicate it, because it's the honesty, I'm telling you, is going to go a long way. I like using real world examples. We had something with the staircase. It was a mess up on the staircase company's end, and it was something I think that we should have caught at the time too. And I went straight to the homeowner, told him what was going on at that second that I found out about it. They were so appreciative of how I handled it and how we dealt with it as a company. And they still talk about it to this day, too. And it's just taking stuff head on and dealing with it. And because I think a lot of people that we deal with have built houses before, and the communication was horrible. So when we have a better communication process, it just makes us stand out even more as a builder, too.
Yep, for sure.
But what do you got? What do we got on dealing with, and I think the last one we were talking about, we did the client. Uh, you did a little bit with what you do as a subcontractor too. Anything else that stands out to you on that aspect, dealing with GCs and what subcontractors should be doing to communicate better?
No, I think the site meeting's a good thing. You know, a lot of our larger projects, there's a required site meeting.
Hmm.
And some actually, if you don't show up, they'll back charge you if you are consistently not showing up. So that's always good. And if a job is very technical and the GC is not having site meetings, then you should propose that, or maybe just coordinate with the trades, right? The other thing too, as a structural steel contractor, there's a lot of things that we don't wait for the GC on. We'll just take the bull by the horns and start communicating, start setting coordination meetings with concrete and framing and whoever else to make sure that our steel is going to be in the right place, that they have the right, nailers on our steel for them to attach wood framing to, any straps, whatever they need. And then on the concrete side, like dimensional, are we correct? Is our phasing good? Are we welding rebar to the columns before they pour grade beams? Like, how's all this going? So we don't wait for the GC to set those meetings because they never really do. Usually they're relying on you to coordinate that. So we get the info, we keep everybody on emails, and we just take the bull by the horns and get it going. Otherwise, we're going to be the ones paying the piper at the end when the shit's all messed up. So
And something off of that too for everybody listening is, and one big thing that we stress with our company is get everything in writing. That's another thing too. Just get it in writing. Like I'm big with phone calls with clients as far as communication. Like I'll pick up the phone, I'll have the discussion with them about a bid or something, like anything. I'm very open and just upfront, and I like to be on the phone. Another life example: we had a pool contractor that we were quoting for a long time. The guy's kind of gone downhill. By far the cheapest pool contractor in the area. I don't even know how this guy makes money, but his quality, along with the price, ended up coming together. And it was just horrible quality. We had some problems with the last couple of pools that he did, so I switched pool contractors. Well, guess what? All the other pool contractors are double his price. So how do I go after pricing a client with a cheaper price, almost half the price, to a new pool subcontractor that's way better, that does a great job, that there's not going to be any issues, that's double the price? Well, that's communication, good communication with the client. I called the client. I tell them, I'm honest with them. I've already gained trust with the client. What I had to do to get less headaches is I had to drop our profit, is a way that I did it. So I dropped our profit, basically told them, hey, this, we were having issues with this subcontractor, a lot of issues with the pool, autofill's not working right, plumbing all messed up, pebblecrete in the pool, the pool finish horrible.
oh
We
my
just don't want to
god,
deal
how
with
did you
this.
fix all that, dude? Because I grew up doing pool construction with my dad, so that's pretty insane.
Having him go back multiple times, like that sub, and he does go back to fix it, but it's like, having him go back constantly. That's what this guy does now. He's the owner, and all he does is drive around fixing his guys that do his work. He just drives around fixing their stuff. He's got like plumbing in the back of his truck. He's got this old beat up Ford, and he just is the fixer basically. And you can tell that, I always joke, because the guy looks like he's just been through hell, like he went through a freaking war. Like he looks like he's
Man, he
electric.
needs,
Just looks like he's fried, because he's just
yeah,
getting call after call about problems with his pools and stuff like that.
he needs the TCS podcast, man. That's what he
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah, I think he's past that. I think he's just trying to wrap up all the pools he has and retire finally. I don't know, but man, it went to hell. So to
Yeah,
sell, I had to basically sell these new pool contractors, which were double the price, but we had to take a hit on our profit to get it done. And I'm willing to take that hit because of the aggravation later on, the aggravation that my employees have to deal with trying to get that other subcontractor back to fix things, or the aggravation that the client, most importantly, has to deal with. And that's how I would promote, like sell this to these clients. As I said, You're not going to have any aggravation with these other pool contractors. They do way better. I mean, with the old guy too, the tile was like falling off the spillovers too. I've
Oh,
never.
good.
Oh, it was horrible, man. And I was like that, and I that's how I'd tell these people. I'm like, we had tile falling off, we had crooked tile, glass tile along the
So did you?
spas.
You
Like,
just didn't do a good job vetting the guy either, huh?
he was good for years though. We used him for years, and
Mm.
just when things got busy, I mean, he has. I found out he had like it was like 100 and something pool permits out, and he mostly does one of the smaller builders on where we're at, a couple of the smaller builders, but those pools are turn and burn. I mean, they're the same pool over and over and over, so he knows his profit. But with us, all our stuff's completely custom. Every pool is different, so I feel like he was just throwing a number at the wall hoping it sticks where he wouldn't lose money. And then it just he fell apart because he got so busy with these other the other builders, and because it's just they got so many small houses popping up all over the place,
Yeah,
so the
lack of
guy lost
scheduling.
control. Yeah, and he lost control and he lost communication, like we're talking about, man. And he became horrible at communicating with us too. And we were a big builder for him as well for years. So finally, we moved on. We've had this new contractor doing our pools. They do an awesome job, real clean, thorough. Tiles perfect. Everything's perfect. Haven't had
Yeah,
an
I've seen
issue
you
yet.
tag them
Yeah.
on the gram
Yep.
when
Yep. And
when they were doing the shell.
yep. Yep.
So
And I did a video with them recently too, and it's just yeah, they're double the price, but all the other ones I bid too to check them were double the price from the original guy that I used too. So it just wasn't right. And long story short, I had to communicate to the client the problems I've been facing. I still gave them the option to deal with the last contractor because it's kind of on me that I did quote them. So I said, if you really want to go with this guy, I'm just going to let you know there's going to be a lot of issues. And most of the time, when you explain these things out, the problems with it, yes, we had to take a hit on our profit, but it's worth the hit on our profit not to deal with the aggravation later on, too. So that's sometimes you just got to do that. That's why I said. And then also going back to what I talked about and getting things in writing, always have things in writing, communication wise, especially with clients, because sometimes you get clients, if you, even with difficult clients, that'll go back and question something. Um, and if you have proof in writing, like we had somebody just say, "Oh, well, you said that I would get the roll down screens with the hurricane shutters for that exact price." No, it's just the hurricane shutter price. Well, no, I wanted both, and I told you that, so I should get both. Well, let me go back to our emails and check what happened. Oh, you said in the email you just wanted hurricane shutters. So now you got to pay separate for the screens. Always cover your butt no matter what. You can have on phone discussions. That's what I do. But after that phone call, I always put it in an email, in
yep.
an email follow up. And so it's in writing. They can approve it. And like I said, everything needs to be approved too by the client or by the subcontractor. So everybody is on the same page. I mean, I could talk communication for hours. I know we got to wrap up on time here. Obviously, we'll be doing another one of these. But guys, ask us questions on this too. You guys are struggling with something, Nate and I are happy to help because we don't have perfect systems for communication, but we're getting there. That's the main thing I'm chasing. Is a system that really just keeps everybody calm. They know what's going on, which is we're pretty close. We're pretty close. So Nate, you got anything else on this?
No, man. It's good though. You're getting close, but then you're gonna scale, and then
Yeah,
it's gonna all
that's
go fall apart, and you're gonna have to
that's
build it
yeah.
again.
Yep, that's how it always works. That's the plan. That's a good thing, though. That's what you want
No,
for
that's good.
sure.
Those are good problems. Good
Yeah,
problems to have, man. No, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. And yeah, everybody like, share, comment, subscribe. Just yeah, hit us up in the DMs and we'll get back to you however we can, right?
yeah. We're looking forward to seeing you guys next week at the Top Contractor Retreat here in Naples, Florida. Literally 20 minutes from my house, which is awesome. So looking forward to seeing you guys. Looking forward to seeing Ed Milet and check Nate and I out up on stage. Hopefully it's live when they do it. We'll let you, hopefully they'll announce that or something coming up. But appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you for listening, and we will see you guys on the next episode.